Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the New Orleans Saints at the Houston Texans in their Week 12 matchup played November 29, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off this game, the Texans, their first possession of the game, Hoyer was perfect, and he would hit Ryan Griffin for a 10-yard touchdown pass that put the Texans on the scoreboard first. Nick Novak added the extra point, and it was 7-0 Texans over the Saints. And that was with about 7 minutes still left in the first. Then with about a minute and a half still left in the first quarter, Hoyer connects with Cecil Shorts III for a 3-yard touchdown pass. Novak adds the extra point, and now Houston was up 14-0. So that did it for the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, a little past the midway point with about 6.5 minutes left before halftime, the Saints would get on the scoreboard with a 30-yard field goal by Kai Forbath. So it was now 14-3. The Texans still in the lead now by 11. And then with just over a minute left before halftime, Kai Forbath hit a 57-yard field goal to cut the Texans' lead to 8 with the score 14-6. So that was the score at halftime as the Texans were in the lead for this entire game. And in the third quarter, with about 11.5 minutes still left in the third, Alfred Blue scored on an 8-yard touchdown run. Novak added the extra point, and it was 21-6 as Houston extended their lead. So now, with about 6 minutes still left in the third, Novak would kick a 34-yard field goal, and that made it 24-6 as Houston was now up by 18 points. Neither team would score in the fourth quarter, and the Texans held on to win. And they end up with a record of 6-5 now with the victory. They're 4-2 at home. The Saints fall to 4-7 on the year. They're 1-5 on the road. So the Texans getting a big win to go up to 6-5. Of course, teams that are 5-5, that's really the point where you either make a push for the playoffs or you fall back and become a pretender. But the Texans are contenders by getting that win. They actually do a lot towards helping themselves get towards the playoffs, and they stay tied with the Colts for first place in the AFC South as the Colts would win their game against the Buccaneers that was going on at the same time as both teams are 6-5. So a must-win for the Texans to keep pace there in the South. And they do come up with the W at home, as their defense was playing exceptionally well. They're really getting after the quarterback, and they held the Saints out of the end zone. It's the first time in 10 years that the Saints haven't scored a touchdown in a game. It's the first time that the Saints coached by Sean Payton, with Sean Payton at the helm. It's the first time they haven't scored a touchdown, and even going back before he was even their coach. So a huge defensive performance by the Texans in this game. But let's look at the numbers overall for both teams. And Hoyer was 21 for 27, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alfred Blue, 16 carries for 77 yards and a rushing touchdown. Blue also had 1 catch for 4 yards to give him 81 total yards on the day. Griffin had 4 receptions for 72 yards and a touchdown, the tight end for Houston. Nate Washington also had 3 catches for 43 yards, and DeAndre Hopkins 5 catches for just 36 yards. Cecil Shorts III 3 catches for 18 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 20 yards, giving him 38 total yards on the day. And for the Saints, Drew Brees, 25 for 44, 228 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mark Ingram, 9 carries for 52 yards. Ingram also had 6 receptions for 45 yards, giving him 97 total yards on the day. And the tight end, Ben Watson, was the leading receiver for the Saints with 4 catches for 53 yards. Snead had 4 receptions for 50 yards. Let me look at the kickers. Kai Forbath, 2 for 2 on the field goals, did not attempt an extra point. And Nick Novak, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points. And we look at the defense. J.J. Watt had 2 sacks in this game. and Jackson had an interception. And for the Saints, Cameron Jordan had a sack, and Bird had an interception. Vaccaro had a forced fumble. We look at the team stats. The Texans had 23 first downs in this game. The Saints 14 first downs. On third down, the Texans were 6 of 13, 46% conversion rate. And the Saints 3 of 12, just 25% on third down. They went for it once on fourth down. They did not convert. We look at total net yards, 362 for the Texans, 268 for the Saints. And on the ground, the Texans had 167 net yards, just 50 net yards on the ground for the Saints. And through the air, New Orleans netted 218. Drew Brees sacked twice for a loss of 10 yards, both of those by J.J. Watt. And for the Texans, they netted 195 yards through the air as they ended up giving up one sack as Hoyer was dropped once for a loss of 10 yards. And then we look at the penalties in this game. 10 penalties against the Saints for 82 yards. 6 penalties against the Texans for 40 yards. 1 fumble for the Saints. 2 fumbles for the Texans. But both teams recovered their own fumbles as they did not give up any fumbles. Of course, we did see, the interceptions in this game as both quarterbacks threw a pick. But that was the only turnovers. So then we look, other than a turnover on downs late in the game by the Saints, but we look at the red zone, and in the red zone, the Texans 3 for 4, 75% in the red zone, and the Saints 0 for 3. And that's really a recipe for disaster, or a recipe for success if you look at in terms of the Texans defense shutting down the Saints in the red zone, forcing them to settle for field goals. Of course, they also turn the ball over in the red zone as well. And then we look at the time of possession, 36 minutes, 23 seconds for the Texans, 23 minutes, 37 seconds for the Saints. So the Texans coming up with a big performance on both sides of the ball. Of course, earlier on, they jumped out to that early lead in the first quarter, 14-0. It looked like they might just roll all over the Saints. And they did win, by 3 scores. But the Saints were able to keep it somewhat respectable. Of course, they weren't able to put any points up other than the 2 field goals as they couldn't get into the end zone. And then the Texans in the third quarter put up another 10 points. But not a lot of scoring in this game. I thought the Texans were going to score more points, but once they got out to that lead, they kind of just coasted to victory, and their defense just shut down the Saints as they played one heck of a game on the defensive side of the ball. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great week, or having a great weekend and had a happy holiday and enjoyed all the sports.